Hey everyone, Mitch coming up with the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, this might be the craziest deck that I have ever built or that you've ever seen. This is a very off-the-wall deck that, well, took a little while to kind of figure out the ins and outs to as I was building it. And as I was building it, the potential for this deck is pretty crazy. So, with all that said, let's jump into it now. I will say the commander for this deck is Jegantha the Wellspring. It can change depending on kind of what you want to do with it. Jegantha is a nice commander to have for it, and we'll see exactly why. But there are other commanders that you could have for it depending on, really, again, what you want to do. So anyways, Jegantha the Wellspring is a 5/5 elemental elk that costs 4 and 8 rule. It does have companion, but Jegantha, you are not our companion, you are our commander. Tap at Wooburg, this mana can't be spent to pay generic mana cost. So basically, Jegantha is a massive mana dork, a huge dork. Let me look at that picture. A giant elemental elk, giant dork. That actually can tap for a lot of mana, but only if you can utilize that mana essentially properly. Again, it can basically be 5 mana, but you can't use it for generic costs. So yeah, if you've got the pips to utilize, cool. But if not, no. But with this deck, yeah, we definitely want to utilize those pips, and this can come in really, really handy. So again, Jegantha, not the focus of the deck. We'll get to that here in a little bit. I just can't wait. I can't wait to show you. But yeah, basically, a commander that can be a giant mana burst for us, and that can be, I was going to say key and crucial. I said crucial, there we go, for this kind of a build. Now, this build is incredibly budget friendly. Every single card in at the time that I built it is less than 50 cents, or 50 cents or less, I should say, except for the commander, which is 97 cents. Oh, you're so expensive, Jegantha. Regardless, the entire deck is just $17.71. Keep in mind that does include cost of shipping or the cost of basic lands, but you might already have those, or you can borrow them from a friend or LGS, or buy them in bulk. Regardless, very budget friendly. Again, according to Moxfield, $17.71 if you're interested in this deck. Make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into battle craziness fun times. Let's go. Let's quickly start things off with attack number 1, land a hand. See what I did there? Anyways, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice, get a base land to play tapped. Fauna Fertility, basically an enchantment version of Wayfarer's Bauble. Rampant Growth, what ramp is named after. 2 mana, go get a base, gonna play tapped. Edge of Autumn, basically the exact same thing as long as you've got 4 or fewer lands. And if you need to cycle this away, you can by sacrificing a single land. Then there's Cultivate, go get 2 basics. 1 goes into play tapped, 1 goes in your hand to set yourself up for the next land drop. Kodama's Reach is the exact same thing, but it's an arcane spell, which does not matter. We got Harrow, sacrifice 1 land, go get 2 basics into play untapped. Roiling Regrowth, the exact same thing, but those lands come to play tapped. Then there's Farhaven Elf. ETBs, go get a basic into play tapped as well. Search for a fantastic turn 1 play. Spend 2 for a single green mana, get a basic into play untapped so you can utilize it right away. And finally, Springblom Druid, basically Roiling Regrowth on a body. ETB, sacrifice 1 land, get 2 basics into play tapped. But we are not done ramping just yet. So let's move on to attack number 2, just landed. Yeah, we want a lot of mana for a very big spicy play. So first up, we've got Colony Heart Expedition. Basically, you get 3 lands into play, you get 3 counters on this, you remove those, and all of a sudden, you get 2 extra lands into play tapped. Lovely. Speaking of 2 extra lands, Grow from the Ashes, you kicked it, you get 2 basics into play untapped, or just 1 if you didn't kick it. Primal Growth. Sacrificing a creature can actually be a good thing. We'll talk about why here in a little bit. But basically, hey, you get 1 basic into play tapped, or if you kicked it, actually I said tapped, it's untapped, or if you kicked it, you get 2 into play instead, and kicking it requires sacrificing a creature, which again can be actually an upside. Explosive Vegetation, 4 mana, get 2 basics into play tapped. Just a good standard ramp spell. Migration Path just kind of adds onto that, basically exact same thing, but we can cycle away if we need to. Vastwood Surge, if we want to get creatures, counters on them, cool. We actually can with this. By kicking it and getting 2 counters on all of our creatures, this can be a great way later in the game to help us actually finish things off, or get earlier basically to say Explosive Vegetation. Terramorph, kind of like a delayed Explosive Vegetation in a way. Go get a basic land, get it into play, untapped, and also this rebound so we get to recast it again. So basically, again, kind of like a delayed Explosive Vegetation, but you can utilize those lands right away, or such, I should say, 1 each. Then there's Nissa's Renewal, gain 7 life, get 3 lands into play tap. Verdant Confluence, basically exact same thing, except for that 7 life gain. This one, you get counters on a creature. You can return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, which can be huge, or again, basically, hey, get some lands into play tapped. Then finally, there's Verdant Mastery, a bit flexible. Go get 4 lands if you actually just cast this for 6 mana. 2 go into play tapped, 2 can go in your hand. If you just paid 4 mana for it, though, again, that Explosive Vegetation cost, you get 3 lands basically for you, 1 for an opponent. 2 go into play tapped, 1 goes into play tapped on your opponent's control, and 1 goes goes into your hand. Next up, let's move on to tech number 3 and talk about what this deck is really about with battle preparations, and we've got Begin the Invasion. This deck is built around this card and one other one that we'll get to here in a little bit, but yeah, this is a huge effect. It's a sorcery for X and Wooburg. Hey, there you go, Gigantha. So again, Gigantha can help us pay for all of that Wooburg cost. So basically, you tap Gigantha, and all of a sudden, you're just paying X for this spell, and what does it do? Search your library for up to X battle cards with different names. Put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. This is an incredibly insane tutor. This is just, hey, go get, again, with Gigantha tapping for, that Wooburg cost, essentially, go get X cards. Put them into play. I mean, it is limited to battle cards, but we have an absurd amount of battle cards and a lot of crazy things that we can do with them, an absurd amount of value that we can get. But yeah, being able to just tutor out cards, get them directly into play, that is a massive play. And again, battles, well, all essentially have a great ETB. Not all have a great ETB, but all of them have an ETB that we can utilize and that we can really utilize an absurd amount of times with this kind of a crazy deck. And now, for me to unveil the exact kind of plan that we are going to be utilizing and why this deck is so crazy. And the golden pig of this deck is, well, Yorion Sky Nomad. That's right. This entire deck hinges on this crazy card. So in combination with Begin the Invasion, we are going to be utilizing this crazy creature. It's a 4/5 Bird Serpent for 3 Azorius. It's got Companion, but we don't care about that because unfortunately we can't utilize it as a Companion. That's okay though, it's in the deck. Flying, enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So, remember how I said that battles, well, all have ETBs essentially. This is a way that we can get those ETBs again and again and again. Every single one of them. This is going to be a value train for us. Once you get things going, it is a value train that your opponents probably won't be able to stop. And in fact, at a certain point, they really won't be able to stop it because you've got some crazy value and your opponents are going to be losing some crazy value too once you get things going. So basically, your goal is, well, get Gigantha out, ramp. All of a sudden, cast that Begin the Invasion, and yes, begin the invasion of the battles in combination with Yorion to bounce the battles, to get the battles back. And then maybe we happen that again. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. Because, well, we've got some loops that we can utilize with this kind of a crazy deck. So now let's move on to tactic number 5, Battle It Out, where we're going to talk about some key and crucial battles. There are 6 of these that I'm going to point out that, you know what, you probably should put at least 6 mana into that X. You can put even more, of course, into that X, for Begin the Invasion to go get an absurd amount of battles, get them into play. But at the very least, yeah, just putting 6 into it is probably going to do the job for you because these battles are, well, incredibly powerful with this combination. First up, Invasion of Urgamon. Now, this one might seem very simple and very, well, straightforward, but it can really build on itself for us. When it enters the battlefield, create treasure token, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So this one essentially says, hey, you know what? You can rummage, and when you do, you get a treasure token, which can be just some nice stored up ramp for us, essentially. Not technically ramp, but, like mana advantage, I should say. And by being able to get this again and again and again, yeah, we can dig down into our deck, get better cards, and also build up some treasures that we can utilize for spells that can really help us out. Now, I will say with these battles, there, of course, is another side to each of these once you take them out. That's not really the goal of this deck. The goal of this deck, again, is to basically just keep getting these battle ETBs again and again and again. So we're going to be moving on to Invasion of Amonkhet. When it enters the battlefield, each player mills 3 cards, then each opponent discards a card, and you draw a card. This is actually pretty brutal. Again, when you keep doing this again and again and again, you are, well, milling your opponents, which is nice, but more importantly, denying your opponents of cards. You are taking out cards in their hand and saying, you don't get those anymore. And I get more cards. I'm digging down into my deck, drawing more cards, and you are losing cards. Essentially, again, if you can keep getting this again and again and again, your opponents won't have a hand. Speaking of which, Invasion of Eldraine enters the battlefield, target opponent discards 2 cards. If you know one of your opponents is going to be a problem, you take them out with this. You say, you know what? No, you get no cards in your hand. I'm just going to keep denying you of cards again with Invasion of Amonkhet. And this, I mean, every single time these ETBs happen, that's going to be 3 cards down for that, problematic opponent probably taking them out of a hand at a certain point, essentially, again, because our goal is to Yori on these to get these ETBs again and again and again, so your opponents essentially aren't going to have a hand, and when they have no hand, there is no stopping you. Moving on, we've got Invasion of Theros. This one is actually pretty huge. Enters the battlefield, search life for an Aura, God, or Demigod card, reveal, put in your hand, then shuffle. This one actually can help us out in both the Aura and the God part, essentially. We've got some cards out there that can help this train keep going, and we'll talk about those cards here in a little bit. But yeah, being able to tutor those up can be actually pretty crucial for this combination to work. Moving on, Invasion of Arcavios, another card that can be really huge for us. Enters battlefield, search your graveyard and outside the game for an instant sorcery card, reveal, open your hand. If you would put this by the shuffle, there are certain cards that we want to be able to get again and again and again and again. Like I mentioned earlier, we have that one that can just make more and more treasures for us, so essentially we can keep casting those cards, essentially. Just even on our opponent's turns, we're out of mana. Oh no, oh, we've got this, pile of treasures. We can utilize these essentially to cast the cards that we need to cast to keep things going, to ensure that our opponents really can't stop this battle invasion plan going. And then finally, one that is massive and huge, Invasion of Otelvada. This one says, when enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is massive because, well, this is just a giant, reanimation effect, essentially, on an ETB. And again, with a deck that's looking to utilize that ETB again and again and again, well, what we're going to be doing is, one of the ways we can do this is essentially sacrifice Yorion. We've got some ways, and we'll talk about those here in a bit. Sacrifice Yorion after its ETB happens and blinks our things, essentially. And all of a sudden, Yorion's in our graveyard. When these battles come back to the next end step, this one comes back, brings back Yorion, gets that ETB again, blinks those battles again until the next end step, and you see how this cycle is going. We're just going to keep doing this again and again and again for all this juicy value, and again, your opponents are going to be denied a value. They're going to lose their hands, they're not going to be able to stop this, and all of a sudden, things are going to get pretty crazy for them. They're just going to be, what is going on? They're going to be like, okay, you just played one spell, you got all these things, and all of a sudden, there's this loop going on that just keeps happening. It keeps happening. It keeps happening. Moving on to tactic number 6, battle tested. Yeah, we've got some other battles that we can utilize as well. Again, the more mana that you can put into that X spell, the better, essentially, for begin the invasion. But still, again, the minimum is probably 6. You want those 6 that I just talked about. These other ones are great to have as well. And again, the more battles you have out there, the more value you're going to be getting from that Yorion loop that you have. Invasion of Asgol. Enters the battlefield, target player sacrifices a creature planeswalker, loses 1 life. This can be a fantastic way to deny opponents of even more resources. And also, well, a way to sacrifice Yorion if you need to. Or again, hey, if you already have a way to sacrifice Yorion, cool. You don't need to do that and make yourself lose 1 life. You've got other ways to do that. And yeah, you can just decide to not blink this. Because again, Yorion has, you may blink any number, essentially. You don't have to blink battles that you don't want to blink. But yeah, deny your opponents of essentially other creatures and planeswalkers. Moving on. Invasion of Ixalan. Enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a permanent card from under, put in your hand, rest go bomb your library. So again, some nice additional, basically, card advantage for you. Moving on, Invasion of Kaladesh. Enters the battlefield, get a 1/1 Thopter. That might seem, small and insignificant, but over time, the more and more times you get this, the more and more value you're getting out of it. Again, making an army in absolutely no time. That can take out your opponents. Again, when they have no creatures, no planeswalkers, no hands, they're not going to be able to stop even the smallest of armies with those Thopters. And again, we talked about some ways earlier that we can pump them up. Moving on, when Invasion of Mercadia enters the battlefield, you may discard a card, draw 2 cards. Cool, so we can actually get some extra card advantage there as well. New Capenna enters the battlefield, sacrifice an artifact or creature. When you do, exile target artifact creature opponent controls. Again, sacrificing Yorion might actually be a good thing. Get rid of your opponent's essentially artifacts or creatures permanently, which is lovely with this. Or again, just utilize those tokens like those Thopters I just talked about to do so. Next up, Invasion of Pyrulia enters the battlefield, scry 3, reveal top card library. It's a land or double face card, draw a card. So again, any of these battles that it hits or any of our lands that we hit, yeah, that's like over 50% of our deck essentially. We are bound to hit something with this essentially to get some extra card selection there as well. Moving on, Invasion of Belanon enters battlefield. You get a 2/2 white and blue knight with vigilance. Nice, lovely. Again, being able to build up our army can be huge and crucial to actually finish out the game. Invasion of Dominaria enters battlefield, gain 4 life, draw a card. What's not to love about that? Moving on, Invasion of Kaldheim enters battlefield, exile cards from your hand, then draw that many cards until the end of next turn. You may play cards exiled this way. Be careful with this one, but it's a great way to essentially double up our hand temporarily or replace our hand essentially in the long run. Again, one that you might want to utilize right away, but maybe don't keep utilizing with your iron when you don't need to. Moving on. Invasion of Karsus enters the battlefield, does 3 damage each creature in each planeswalker, so a great kind of middle ground, essentially, wrath effect that can take out some medium-sized to smaller creatures. Then we've got Invasion of Vryn. Vryn. There we go. I think it's Vryn. Enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, discard a single card. So again, some more card advantage there. Invasion of Zyrex. Enters the battlefield, return to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. This is one that if you want to bounce Yorion and recast, sure you can. More likely you're going to be like, yeah, let's bounce your creature away. Oh no, you have to discard it now. I'm so sorry. Goodbye. Then we've got Invasion of Zendikar. Enters the battlefield, go to 2 basics into play tap. Basically another explosive vegetation, which is fantastic early on in the game, and also a way to just say, let's just get every single one of our basics from our deck into play. Invasion of Fioria, one that you need to be careful with, but one that can be fantastic. Enters the battlefield, choose 1 or both, destroy all ledger creatures or all non-ledger creatures. So yeah, depending on the situation, utilize this great wrath to essentially keep the board clear. Then there's Invasion of Lorwyn. Finally, enters the battlefield to destroy target non-elf creature, and opponent controls the power X less for X number of lands you control. Yeah, at a certain point, again, you're gonna have enough lands to destroy any creature on the battlefield except for elves. Yeah, most players aren't just playing elf tribal. You can take out a lot of creatures, pretty much any creature with this. Now let's move on to tactic number 7, Outlet Maul, because again, like I mentioned earlier with Invasion of Theros, that ETB, go get an aura or a god, can be massive for us and help us set ourselves up with that loop. So we've got Dark Privilege, a great aura. Basically, enchant creature gets ++1, sacrifice a creature, generate enchant creature. This turns any of our creatures into a free sacrifice outlet, which is massive. And yeah, we can put this on Gigantha, a Thopter, whatever you need to put it on, sacrifice Yorion, and actually protect the creature too. Then there's Fallen Ideal, another great aura. Enchant creature has flying and sacrifice creature. This creature gets +2/+1 until end of turn, so yet another free sacrifice outlet for us. And on top of that, it's in a grave from play, return it to its owner's hand. So this is a one that we can get back again and again and again. And then there's Erebos Blackhearted, a god that we can search for that can be fantastic as well. One that is hard to deal with. It's indestructible. It probably won't be a creature most of the time. That's okay. Whenever the creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life if you do draw a card, which is very nice. Again, we've got, creatures dying. We've got some ways to gain life. Yeah, let's just dig down into our deck, draw even more cards. On top of that, pay 1 in a black sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. So not a free sacrifice outlet, but one that we can pay for. And again, one that we can utilize those treasures for if we need to. So yeah, another way to essentially say, let's keep this thing going with Yorion. But next up, let's move on to tactic number 8, Tutor Time, because we need some ways to get the pieces of this combination to get things going. Ringside is a fantastic one. The ring tempts you, search your life for a card that shares a color with a ledger or creature control, reveal, put in your hand, then shuffle. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be tutoring for Begin the Invasion, essentially any creature in play, I mean, that has any kind of color, essentially, like Gigantha, yeah, can go tutor for Begin the Invasion, which can be a fantastic play for us. Then there's Brain Spoil, a great one as well. Transmute this way for 1 black, discard it, and go get anything out of our library that costs 5. This is also one that really can't be countered except, again, like Stifle effect, essentially. So basically an uncounterable tutor for a card to really get things started, or we can destroy a creature with it. Cool. Bring to Light, another one that is pretty fantastic. Search your library for a creature, instant sorcery card, mana value equal to or less than the number of colors of mana spent to cast a spell, exile it, basically cast it for free. So this one can actually be a way to kind of like tutor for a tutor if we need to go get Begin the Invasion, or also just, hey, tutor for Yorion, which costs 5, get it right into play and get that ETB right away. Next up, Illicit Shipment. We can actually get 2 things with this one. Casualty 3, search your life for a card, put in your hand, then shuffle. So if we sacrifice a creature with power 3 or greater, maybe like our commander, cool. Go get 2 cards. Go get those 2 cards that you need. Then there's Razgest Right, basically tutor for a card. Also, you can cycle it away for a single black mana if you need to. Then finally, Supply and Demand. Supply is nice if you want to make some saplings, cool. More likely, though, you're going to cast Demand, search life for a multicolor card, reveal it, put in your hand, then shuffle. So a 3 mana tutor for either Begin the Invasion or Yorion. This card can be massive. Next up, though, let's move on to tactic number 9, Save for Later, because actually, we don't need Yorion in our hand to get things going again. With our invasions, we've got one that, again, when it ETBs, we get a non-battle permanent out of our graveyard back into play. So essentially, what you're going to be doing is casting, Begin the Invasion. Cool. I just said invasions, battles, whatever, you know what I mean. We're going to cast Begin the Invasion. We're going to tutor up for our, 6 battles that we talked about earlier. We go get the one essentially that says, hey, you know what? ETB. Get something out of our graveyard right into play. And what can get Yorion into our graveyard is something like Auric Lore Mage. Tap, search life for a card, put it in the graveyard, then shuffle. If it's instant sorcery, you get a counter on Auric Lore Mage. Again, basically go tutor for Yorion, get it right into our graveyard, and get things going. In a similar way, Violent Tumor. Enters the battlefield, select for a card, put your graveyard, then shuffle. So another way to essentially say, let's get Yori on there. Hey, look, another way. Corpse Connoisseur enters the battlefield, select for a creature, put in your graveyard, and we can also unearth it if we need to. Final Parting, a way to basically get both of our pieces where they need to be. Tutor for 2 cards. One goes into our hand, one goes into our graveyard. Begin the invasion into our hand, Yorion into our graveyard. And your opponent's like, what are you doing? Oh no, oh no. And then finally, Gravebreaker Lamia, basically ETB. Go get a card from our library into our graveyard. Yeah, being able to set ourselves up in multiple ways can be crucial for this kind of a deck. But now let's move on to tactic number 10, backup plans. And first up, we've got Teferi's Time Twist. Now, like I talked about earlier, you know, we've got different ways that we can go about this. We've got different ways that we can actually get this thing going. And yeah, we've got a tutor, you know, on a battle that when it enters the battlefield, go get an instant or sorcery from your library or graveyard. So we can just keep getting back something like Teferi's Time Twist to keep blinking Yorion if we need to. And again, we've got ways to make treasures, ways to make that mana that we can just keep recasting this. It's a great card. Basically, exile any permanent you control, leaves the battlefield, comes back at the end step. Cool. Again, that can be Yorion. That can be a way to protect more of our battles if we need to. Whatever you need, you can utilize it. Then there's Flicker Wisp. Enters the battlefield, exile a target permanent, returns to the battlefield, until control the next end step. So again, on a creature, we can actually utilize this as well to essentially kind of get a blink going again. Timeless Witness. This is a great way to get anything back out of our graveyard. ETB, get a card back out of your graveyard, back to your hand. So again, if we need to recur something, we can. We can also eternalize this to do that again. And then finally, Sudden Disappearance. Kind of a backup Yorion in a way to just get a lot of value. Exile non-land permanent target player controls. Return the exile card to the battlefield. Under their control begin the next end step. So basically kind of like a one-off Yorion effect that again, hey, if you're set up in a certain way, you get some battles in play, you just want to get all those battles ETBs again, yeah, you can utilize this card to do so. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to hear from you with your thoughts on this deck. Yeah, let me know in the comments below your thoughts are on it. Do you think it's pretty crazy? Do you think it's pretty out there? Kind of like a Yorion battle loop? I think it's pretty interesting. So yeah, let me know in the comments below your thoughts are on it. If you are interested in this deck, again, it's incredibly budget friendly. According to Moxfield, it's $70.71. And again, you can change out the commander to whatever you essentially want it to be, as long as it's 5 color, can utilize it. Yeah, there you go. Let me know in the comments below again. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one.
This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.